Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fun, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh, yeah. Firearms Friday. Man, how did we get to the end of the week so quick? It's amazing. Thank you for coming in and joining us today, wherever you're listening to us from, whether it's down in beautiful Seldovia. Hi, Chris. How you doing? Or up in the Fish Hook from Brian up in Wasilla. Hello, Brian. How you doing? And, of course, Anthony up in Fairbanks and all across the state of Alaska. It is the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live. You can find us on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. That's where we have the oops, I guess I should have turned it on. I just realized I forgot to turn on the stream for the internet. Hi, stream. Thanks for joining us this morning. You can also find links to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, Rumble, wherever you go. Speaking of YouTube, if you haven't already subscribed and followed and rang the bell on YouTube to receive notifications, then please do so, because we are, we being me and the mouse in my pocket, we are putting up a lot of new short videos every day related to the guests that we have, little blurbs about the show, some good stuff. And you can go out there and follow along on YouTube, and you'll get those in your shorts feed if you're there. So it's it's amazing. So anyway, Friday, it's our what I like to call my weekly therapy session. Yeah, Friday is all good stuff, because today we're going to focus and talk about the Second Amendment and guns and firearms. And why? Well, because we can, first of all. And second of all, because it's one of my favorite topics. And quite honestly, it's something that I believe that we need to continue to fight for here in the United States. It's something that we need to stay abreast of. I saw a very interesting, I guess you would say it's a meme. It wasn't really a meme. It was more of a comment. And it kind of struck home with me. And the little blurb, the little comment basically said, England outlawed and removed all guns in 1997. And here we are 30 years later, and they're arresting people for Facebook posts. And that's not hyperbole. Right? That's not anecdotal. There's videos out there. There was a video. I just saw it again yesterday. It's been floating around for the last couple of weeks, of 2 police officers, 2 Metropolitan Scotland Yard, 2 Metro police officers at a woman's home wanting to confiscate the daughter's phone and potentially arrest her for viewing a social media, not commenting on it, not doing it, for viewing a social media post. And of course, we've seen the videos of people being, the videos of people being arrested for making a comment on social media. Now I'm not saying that there's causality or anything else, but I am saying it's interesting that 30 years ago, they essentially disarmed the populace, and today they're going to arrest them for something that they said on the internet. And some of this stuff is pretty mild, quite honestly. Some of the things that, and you can, look, don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go Google it yourself. Okay? Just go Google it yourself, and you can look at, UK arrests social media posts, or UK arrests for social media hate speech, or whatever you want. And you'll find, as I did when I Googled this, that the so-called hate speech is really nothing more than people just having an opinion that may not be in the mainstream. And to me, there is a there is a correlation and a cause, and causality between the fact that they have been disarmed, and now they have all this government overreach where they can't even speak their mind anymore. It's really astonishing. And Brian's right too. Brian just said Canada is headed that way as well. Yeah, Canada. I mean, Jordan Peterson, if you followed Jordan Peterson at all, you know that that's what he's that's what he's faced in Canada for some of the things that he said. And Jordan Peterson, I mean, if you've ever watched him, I mean, he's got some hard truths. And yeah, it's going to upset some people and make some people uncomfortable, but I don't think he's ever said anything that I could, 100% wholeheartedly disagree with. And so what does that mean? And that kind of comes back to what we've been dealing with in this country over the last 2 weeks, which is, of course, the death of somebody like Charlie Kirk, where, basically somebody was murdered in the public square for essentially exercising their right to free speech. And the worst part is that a lot of people are going to find that kind of stuff justifiable. And we know that there are people out there who have found it justified. I mean, you've all seen the videos. You've seen, there's dozens of videos of people who were proclaiming that it's great and it's okay, and it was laughing and it was mocking, and we've all feel it. We all feel the craziness that is our country today. And if you think this is just going on in the lower 48, I got something else to tell you. The governor proclaimed that there's a weekday next week, and it's going to be Charlie Kirk Day. And my wife was showing it to me last night, and of the hundreds of comments on Governor Dunleavy's proclamation supporting Charlie Kirk, there was a handful of hundreds. There was a handful of comments that were positive. The rest were very woof. I mean, just woof. People who live among us, who have a hatred, who don't want to hear what you have to say. And now I'm not saying that every one of them is crazy enough or enough of a lunatic to want to do what the shooter did with Charlie. But if they would celebrate the death of somebody that we supported or believed in or had some agreement with, that's some troubling times. That is, I mean, it's kind of troubling, right? And as I look at what happened in England, the fact that they, lost their right to keep and bear arms to be able to defend themselves, and let's not get it twisted. Let me be real clear here. The Second Amendment wasn't about hunting. The Second Amendment, in the mean, wasn't really even about protecting yourself against criminals or intruders. The main reason, and you can go back and don't take my word for it. I hope that you go back and do the reading for yourself. But the main reason for the Second Amendment was twofold. One, to have a national defense for, to call to arms for the regular citizens to help fight off, foreign invaders. But also it was a check against government. That was the second reason. And we've talked about this, how the Second Amendment is an implicit threat against tyranny. You can go this far and you can't go any further, right? And I've opined many times that is one of the few reasons why we remain as free as we are here in the United States. Because we're watching it. We're watching it in slow motion happen right now in England, right? We see it happening where they, again, denied firearms. They took them away. They cut and then they started to slowly but surely take away and restrict other other rights. We saw the same thing in Australia, after the assault weapons ban and the gun confiscation in Australia. We saw what happened during COVID, where people were literally being arrested for just leaving their homes, right? And so I think that there is a correlation to a lot of that. It's troubling. It's troubling to say the least. But thank goodness, here we are today in a country that still believes, in part, in your ability to defend yourself. And I know it's confusing out there. I know that it's frustrating, and it creates some fear. My wife and I were just talking yesterday about, she said she's had anxiety. She said I don't know. She said, I've had anxiety for the last couple weeks. She says, it's tearing me up. And, hey, there's a lot of people out there that are feeling that, because they look at somebody and I know people are like, well, we could just stop about the Charlie Kirk. I can't stop about the Charlie Kirk because I can't stop thinking about it. At least once a day, I consider what happened, and I look at it, and I look at the reaction, and I realize how messed up this country is, where people cannot agree to disagree. I mean, even here in the local community, and by local, I mean even down here on the Kenai Peninsula, the reaction from certain people. There was an article written about a vigil that was held for Charlie Kirk, and it was written by Chloe Plesnak, who works for the Homer News. Now, I've met Chloe. She interviewed me. I was one of her first interviews when we took over the station. Seemed like a very nice lady, very pleasant. We had a great conversation. We talked about community. We talked about being able to bring people together, and everything else. I mean, that was kind of part of my vision as a radio station owner, was that while I have my own opinions, I want to utilize radio to help bring communities together, to bring people who disagree, on both sides of the table. And she seemed to agree with my sentiments and everything else. And yet when she writes about this vigil for Charlie Kirk, she writes, he was a far-right political activist and Christian nationalist icon. He regularly toured college campuses around the country, engaging college students in debates where he defended his often racist and controversial views. And goes on to talk about, I mean, all this kind of stuff where it really, it's really frustrating, because this is what we're seeing from people who are supposedly non-biased journalists who are supposed to get both sides of a discussion. But I mean, that wasn't somebody else's opinion. She's stating these things as fact. His often racist views. And we're going to get into it today. Part of the Charlie Kirk's record on the far, where he said it was worth it, quote, worth it on guns. A few deaths were worth it, which is not exactly what he said. Again, taking things out of context. And this is what they've been famous for this whole time, is everything that they try and pin on him. They play 5 seconds of a 60-second clip that sets up, because context matters, right? Context matters greatly. But this is kind of the thing that we're looking at across the country. And it's very, very disheartening. It really is. Because as you see people doing the happy dance and declaiming that how happy they are that this person's life was cut short for merely expressing an opinion that they didn't agree with. Now, and here's the worst part. Most of these people actually didn't hear what Charlie had to say. All they know of Charlie comes from their own talking heads who say he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's a whatever. And so they didn't bother to go listen to what Charlie actually said. They didn't bother to go actually, even read a synopsis or put everything in context. They automatically believed that's, you know, their fearless leaders on their side of the aisle said this is what he said, so they believe it. Don't need to check it. And yet that's also there's also some unintended consequences from that, because you're seeing it. Did you see that one of the Congress women, I just, for the life of me, it escapes me now which state, she literally just switched her party affiliation from Democrat to Republican in Congress over the whole Charlie Kirk thing. And you're seeing there's dozens of videos out there. People are saying, I've been on the left for a long time. I've been a Democrat. I've been a progressive, but I'm leaving y'all because you're all crazy, because what you're doing is disgusting, because there's going to be a change. And that's why we need to continually educate people on all of this stuff. And again, make you do your own research. Don't just believe me because I said something. By golly, go out there and search it up. And, use DuckDuckGo. Don't use Google, or don't use Bing, or use all the search engines you want. Somebody said that the other day. Don't Google it. Google will tell you lies. Well, I don't believe just Google, right? It's not just a one and done thing. Use whatever it is, whatever search engine, or as many search engines as you need, or whatever chat, whatever, any AI things that you need. But go out and do the research yourself. That's what we need to do. We need to have more conversations about this. All right. Wow, I went really down a rabbit hole there, but sometimes the heart does what the heart does, and that's where I'm at this morning, because I do feel, I'm a little concerned about the country. I'm a little concerned about the reaction in the country. And I'm concerned in part about the overreaction in the country, that on our side where we could go the other way. And that's why last week when we were talking about the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, which I'm sure we're going to talk about with Willie here at the end of the show again today, since Kimmel is back on the air, that I was a little concerned about the pressure on the government side, the FCC thing. Now, primarily because I deal with the FCC, right, as a broadcaster. And it makes me a little nervous when somebody from a government agency comes down to try and tell me what free speech is, or tries to tell me what fair and balanced, what serving the public means, et cetera, et cetera. I am all for Disney or Nexstar or whoever cutting somebody off at the knees because they're an employee and they're delivering a product, but it's that outside influence that worries me, right? And I know I got an email from somebody saying, I can't believe that you would support Jimmy. I was not supporting Jimmy Kimmel. I was expressing my concern that the government could, because it's all well and good now that it's Trump, right? But what happens if it's down the road, it's Kamala or Gavin Newsom or Beto O'Rourke or some other, progressive luminary who gets in the White House, and they turn around and weaponize the FCC against people like me, who are just on a radio station talking and espousing their views and inviting conversation. And they say that's hate speech, right? I mean, it's all well and good when your guy's in office. What happens when their guy gets in office, right? That's why the government should never be weaponized in those areas, so that neither side can take advantage of it. Well, Biden did some, I don't care. Stop with the tit for tat, right? Well, he did it, so we should do it. No, we should not. We should do everything in our power to be able to put roadblocks and barriers to disallow that kind of stuff. Because you know what the lowest hanging fruit is for many of these politicians? Freedom of speech is harder, but your right to bear arms, that'd be a little easier. So don't go there. Don't go there. All right. I'm sorry. I apologize. You got me going a little ranty this morning. All right. We got some headlines, but most importantly, we have got some phone calls, I'm sure. Well, maybe not yet, but you're welcome to call in. Phone lines are open. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Before we jump into some of the headlines on this beautiful Firearms Friday, the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Dukes Show.
Okay, we are in the break, and we are doing our thing here. I just realized that there was something that I needed to drop in here. Okay, I just did that. We got that. Wow. I'm just looking at something that was kind of busted that I should have checked earlier today. Oh, bad on me for not, bad on me for not, you know what I mean? Okay. There we go. All right. Now I got it. Okay. We're good to go. Let me check the next one. Okay, that's fine. All right. All right, let's continue on here. Let's get back into the comments here. Ted Bundy seemed nice. Let's see. She showed you her real colors. I think he was talking about Chloe Plesnick from the Homer News. I mean, yeah, again, when I was having this conversation with her and was talking to her at the station, I mean, she seemed super nice, and we were having this conversation about how, things can be divisive, but radio can also be used to bring people together. And, I was kind of pouring my heart out, what I really wanted, what my aspirational goals were. And she seemed to, you're right, we need to stop dividing each other kind of thing. She seemed to agree. And then she writes something like that. And I'm like, as if it's fact, as if it's a real fact. And to say that that's disappointing is, it's an understatement. She didn't say that he had been accused of being a racist. She said he defended his often racist and controversial views, which is just amazing for somebody who's supposed to be wanting to publish the truth. And it's crazy. Anyway, I'm irritated by that. Let's see. Austin said, I'm from Grand Haven, Michigan. Hi, Austin. Welcome to the program. Thanks for tuning in. Rick said, I woke up last night thinking about Charlie and the movement his death started, looked at the clock, straight up 12 midnight. It comes to me at certain times of the day. I'll be thinking about something, and then I'll and something will come up, and in my mind, I'll think back to that moment where, it was a horrific moment. And I can't wrap my head around. I can't get into the same headspace in people who have been, again, celebrating or mocking or doing whatever word you want to use on that. I can't get in that headspace. Even when somebody on the left died, I've never felt a joy or a relief or never done a happy dance or done anything like that. I think about their families. I just think it's tragic. I didn't have to agree with them, but anyway, Chris says, it makes you concerned to say anything or make a comment in the internet. Am I going to get shot or arrested? That's the thing. Do you start, first of all, I gave up trying to say things or make arguments on the internet years ago, because let's face it, you're never going to convince most of these people of your position. You're never going to change anything with those folks. It's an effort in futility. But secondly, am I just adding more fuel to the fire? Should I just stop talking from my heart here on the radio show because somebody might find me offensive? This is why I go forth armed. This is why I have always gone forth armed. Trump, what was this? Albert says on YouTube, Trumps think we're all going to jump clap and cry for him like we are in his hermit kingdom. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, I'm certainly not going to do that because as people know on this program, I'm not a huge fan of everything the president does.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Kind of a what? Kind of a what? Oh, man. Oh, and Sarah Vance is just in the chat room as well. And that we were just talking about this commentary on Charlie Kirk by Chloe Plesnek. And Sarah wrote a letter complaining about the same thing that I was just complaining about. But apparently, because she wrote the letter on her letterhead, there are some folks on the left in Homer who have now filed a complaint to the Legislative Council, an ethics violation, apparently, I guess, claiming that she has violated the free press. I don't know how claiming that they should be more accurate in their reporting and not be printing verifiable falsehoods that's somehow violating the free press. I don't know. Stay strong, Sarah. Stay strong. That's all I could say. Because that, again, this whole commentary about Charlie being a racist is verifiably, demonstrably false. In fact, there's so many videos out there, right? And my life over the last 2 weeks has been almost all of my free time has been investigating what people have been saying. And I saw a great video the other day from a black guy who basically said, I was told this and I was told that. And he said, and I was outraged about what Charlie has said. And so I went out to watch it for myself. And now I'm mad that they lied to me because that's not what he said about being a racist, about how he hated the Civil Rights Act. He hated Martin Luther King and all this. He goes, but that's not what he said. I mean, this guy was shook. This guy in this video was shook. He was like, I was lied to. And I'm so mad about it. But we've got reporters, quote unquote, who are just saying things like that as if they're fact. So it's a crazy thing. All right. Phone lines 319 527 3864 319 527 3864. If you want to call in this morning to talk about anything that's, well, I guess anything that we're talking about this morning is fine. But since we're on the Charlie thing, and by the way, Willie Waffle will be joining us at the end of the show today. I forgot to mention that earlier, but he always does on a Friday. We're gonna lighten it up this morning. But we need to go back, and since we're talking about Charlie, let's talk about Charlie's point on guns, because we heard a lot of people that it was some kind of gotcha moment, right? That Charlie Kirk, who is pro-gun, defended the Second Amendment in many debates, but one of the quotes came out where, they basically, again, because context matters, and they said, Kirk had basically died for what he believed in. Essentially, was one of the least offensive things that we're saying, because some gun deaths every single year. Here the quote. They take it out of context, but here it is. He goes, "I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment protect our God-given rights." That's the quote that they try and use. But the entire quote was not specifically talking about that. He was talking about that in relation to vehicular fatalities. He talked about how cars kill thousands more per year than guns do. And it's before you even take out the suicides that they include in the gun deaths, right? And he just pointed out that no one is saying that we should ban driving because 50, 60,000 people a year are being killed. And he was saying society has made a decision that level of freedom, that level of autonomy, that the ability to transit and travel in a car or in a vehicle, basically we've made the decision that it's worth the cost of having those deaths to be able to have the freedom that we have. And then he analogized that to firearms, right? So this is part of a bigger discussion in regards to that. But again, nuances are hard for people, especially ideologues who don't want to have their ideology challenged, which, by God, was one of the things that Charlie was so good at. He would just sit there on those campuses with those kids, and they would, argue with him or rail against him, sometimes scream at him and explicative laden, whatever, and call him every name in the book. And he would just sit there and, he'd come back with questions, and he'd make them think. Which again goes back to what Nick Freitas said, is that they didn't kill him because he was offensive or anything. They killed him because he was effective. But this, again, the whole thing in context is Charlie Kirk is citing the fact that there are 50 to 60,000 automobile accidents. But it's huge. It's huge. There's 38,000 gun deaths or something. But if you narrow it down to just homicides, it's only 15,000 roughly. So to say that, we're not going to take away cars, we're not going to do that. We're not going to take away people's personal freedom to transit somewhere. We've decided that there is a balancing point before it's worth the cost. And that was the point that he was making. But again, you have to listen to the whole thing in context and not just take some talking head's word for it. I mean, don't take my word for it. Go out there and look. In fact, there is a YouTube video here that actually has the entire exchange between Charlie Kirk and this guy. I mean, and it's almost a 10-minute exchange between Charlie Kirk and the guy who basically admits that he wants to overturn the Second Amendment. And so Charlie has this conversation with him. And we're not going to play that. Okay. We could, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm just going to post up the link. The links are in the chat room. And if you want to go on and you're listening on the radio, so you're not on the internet, just go to Charlie Kirk's channel on YouTube from 9 months ago. And the title of the video is "This Dude Openly Admits He Wants to Overturn the Second Amendment." Just go look for that, and you can watch the whole exchange in context. But again, this is where we're at today. This soundbite mentality. This soundbite mentality of where they take one little thing that was said during an entire conversation, and then they say, see, racist. Where he's racist because he was against the civil rights movement, the civil rights law. And he said, no, he said it did good things. The problem was it was then used in other areas. It was used to weaponize and DEI and everything else. The concept of the Civil Rights Act is great, but then it went too far. And again, you could see that if you watch the video, he actually says that the Civil Rights Act was a good thing until it was used for X, Y, and Z. But people just, but again, this quote about guns to me was one of the more heinous things, and one of the more heartless things, because people, they don't want to understand. They think in their heart of hearts that if they just wish all the guns away, because let's face it, there's no way they could get all the guns in America. If they outlawed them all tomorrow, I mean, that's assuming that there wouldn't be a civil war, okay? But let's just say that everybody capitulated and cooperated, and they just, all the law-abiding people turned in there. If you think that just the government waving their wands and their hands and saying, okay, folks, turn them in, if you think that somehow that would stop the madness and the violence out there, you have not been paying attention, well, to history, and you've not been paying attention to what's going on in countries like England or Australia or Norway or all these other places where they have had these vile, vicious attacks from people who just don't care about laws. You're totally missing the point. But in their mind, that's what they believe. I used to give people a little more credit, but people en masse are sheep, man. They really are. Especially since we're not teaching critical thought, since we're not teaching rational, reasonable discourse, critical thinking, and critical thought anymore in schools. People they lap up whatever is thrown in front of them. And what's been thrown in front of them for the last 40 years? The last 40 years, what's been thrown in front of them is guns are the problem. Guns are bad. It's not the people. It's not the folks that take that action. It's not that, it doesn't matter. No, it's the guns. That's the problem. All right. I see Fred's on the line, calling in on our phone line. Our phone lines are open right now. If you want to call and debate me on this, or you want to call and disagree with me, I'd love to hear what you have to say. But feel free to do so. We'll have a conversation. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. We're going to continue here in just a moment. We'll be back with Fred. Don't go anywhere. We will continue on this Firearms Friday, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Since we had a problem with the phone last time, and it's been a hot minute since we had the phones on, let's go over and check in with Fred real quick to see if his phone's working. Can you hear me, Fred? Are you there, my friend? Fred, are you with me? Did Fred go to get a cup of coffee? I show that I'm sending him audio. Fred, can you hear me? Let me verify that I'm getting audio back.
All participants are muted.
I am getting audio back. Fred, are you with me, my friend? All right. Well, I'm going to hang up on Fred because either he can't hear me or I don't know what, but we're going to hang up on Fred and we're going to try and get him to call us back. So we'll see what happens from there. Okay. Let me go back up here. See, the truth, says Anthony, to some people is whatever needs said to further their own goals, regardless of whether it's factual or not. I agree with you. David said, troopers tried to serve a $50,000 warrant yesterday on a fugitive from Anchorage who was staying in his car at the Storiski State Campground. Subject was shot and killed. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I had a trooper fly by my place at about 100 miles an hour. And I was like, what is going on? That was earlier yesterday morning. So that went up there. All right. I was seeing. As I was mad about being too, or mad at yourself for believing. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Zach says there hasn't been actual journalism in this country for decades. Yeah. No, I'm exactly with you on that. Just goes to show you, says David, that you can't come down onto the peninsula to hide out. FAFO is a way of life down here. Yeah. Anthony makes the valid point. Medical mistakes kill more than guns, cars, and drugs combined. So we need to ban healthcare, right? Yeah, medical misadventure. 3 times the amount of deaths. It is the 3rd leading cause of death in America is medical misadventure. All right. I think Fred's back. Let's see if we can hear him now over here. Good morning, Fred. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you hear me all right, Mike?
I can hear you all right now. For some reason, that other phone does not like calling in here. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, that's actually my hard line. I think something's going on there. There's some kind of a, I don't know. I don't want to speculate. But yeah, there's something going on with the hard line.
Well, maybe
but I'm on the cell, so they can't touch this one.
Yeah, maybe it's George Soros. Maybe he's tapped your phone, Fred. I don't know. All right, hold.
I'd like to tap him right in the head.
Yeah, hold on, Fred. I'll put you back on hold, and we're going to come back to you here in just a minute. I just wanted to test the audio. I'm glad we did before we go in there. Brian says Tom Knighton has a really good debunking of Charlie Kirk on guns. Yeah. Tom Knighton over at bearingarms.com, which if you don't subscribe to Bearing Arms, they do a really good job. I get a lot of my news, the things we talk about from Bearing Arms. You should go over there. I'll post up. That was what spurred me to talk about this morning. There's a Bearing Arms story over there. I'll post it up in the chat room there. Thank you, Brian, for pointing that out. One of the big problems, says Richie, we have is people are too caught up in instant gratification. No one takes the time to listen to things in their entirety or disseminate what is fact or just an interpretation. Usually they're too lazy to pursue accurate information. So they do a Google search or view a clip. They make a quick assessment. Well, it sounds like so-and-so is saying X, so he's a fascist, and voila, instant video. It's true. I mean, it's true. They do a quick Google search and they see where somebody has clipped out the pertinent 10-second comment, and they think, well, that was it. And they don't look at the thing in its entirety. That's always been the problem. Anthony sent me a picture in Messenger for me to go take a look at. He's got a brand new he's got a brand new truck gun. I'm looking forward to seeing the brand new truck gun. Messenger's making me log back in again. What? Come on. Skipper now. Okay. All right. There we go. I'll see if I can get it here in just a minute. All right. Good morning. One thing they couldn't stand about Charlie is that he routinely and surgically diced these people to ribbons without needing to be aggressive. Resort to the typical lefty playbook of hot button buzzwords. They had 0 legs to stand on. Yeah. If you watched how he did it, he just asked them questions to where they started to realize the fallacies of their own arguments. He was effective. That's why it happened. All right, we're going to jump into it. Fred is our guest. We're going to talk with him here in just a second. Let's get back to it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yes, all my guns are protection guns. Just saying. I checked all the tags. None of them said murder guns on them. They all said protection guns. All right. Well, this is one of the highlights of our week. We love talking with you, our listeners, on Firearms Friday about all things firearms related. And Fred has been listening every week for several years, all the way from Rhode Island, and he calls in every week to check in with us, and we appreciate that. Fred, what's on your mind today, my friend? What's going on?
Hey, good morning, Michael. You get an interesting topic this week. But then again, it kind of falls right in line with what I've been saying off and on, for a while now. But we have to find out who is pushing the buttons and manipulating the puppets and the marionettes. We got to really find out who's behind the scenes pushing the. Is it Soros? Is it Bloomberg? Is it international globalists? A group of people that sit there, they want to rule the world. Who is pushing the buttons that are creating these narratives? And of course, the brain dead minions sit there and take up the cause and blindly follow, without question, the stupidity that they're engaged in. But it goes on and on and on. But like I say, it's nothing ever going to be resolved until they get to the source. You definitely got to follow the trail of breadcrumbs back to the beginning, back to the source, back to the origin as to where it's all coming from. And apparently, it is globalist. I mean, you see England, you see all these, with the, their war on free speech over there.
Right.
But then, apparently, this is something that has to be tracked down and pulled apart and analyzed, really, and find out who is doing what. I mean, you can see what's going on with the former director of the FBI. I mean, this is not even the tip of the iceberg. What's going on there? But It's definitely a start. Trying to find out what's going on there, and of course, he's going to lie through his teeth, and he's going to try to weasel out of any acquisition that's put against him, facts or no facts. That he's just going to lie and lie some more. This is what they do. They don't want to face. They don't face the reality. They screw up, and then they sit there and deny everything, and then they blame everybody else for their doings. And I think we got to put our foot down on that. That has to go. Because and expose it. Definitely 24/7 against them. And every time they open their mouth and they lie, come down on them like a brick, what.
Well, and I guess that's the problem when you get into a freedom of speech issue and you get into the free press. You have to be able, to count on somebody to be balanced. And the problem is that as they tell these lies, they're still draping themselves in the flag of we're non-biased journalists, and so you should trust us, instead of saying that we're commentators. It's gone from reporting to essentially commentary on both sides, right? It's no longer the Walter, right? It's no longer the Walter Cronkite of the world.
You have to throw it back in their face. Whenever you do that, away, throw it right back in their face. They lie.
Yeah.
You're not telling the truth. It's all BS for whatever narrative that you're pushing here. And you don't let them get away with it. You cannot let them get an inch. We went through 4 years of brain dead Biden and all the nonsense that he pushed along and everything he tried to pull off. And apparently now they're running around like rats on a burning ship. So how they're going to deal with it? They're in total disarray, but they're not giving up. They're not giving up the cause. And we have to find out who's running the cause. That I think is the only way we're going to resolve any of this and get back to any sense of normalcy in this country and in the world, for that matter.
Well, but I mean, you're assuming that there is some mastermind behind all of this, and I would say
there has to be. This is a little too organized. To be random.
I would say this is more. My personal opinion is I don't think that there's any one person or cabal necessarily. I think this is more about groupthink. I think this is more about kind of a culture of people who, kumbaya, and they believe they should all do it together. This is what I talked about in the past, Fred, when I talk about people who believe in the narrative. The narrative, that's TM, the Michael Duke Show. The narrative is people who believe that the only way society can move forward is through the direct benevolent intervention of government. And that doesn't require some mastermind. That just requires a lot of people who have that same belief, then all becoming part of that same government. And so they're all pulling in the same direction. So I don't know if there's necessarily one single mastermind. I think what you saw with Biden and everything else in the auto pen is you saw a group of people who said, well, we've still got to keep going the way, they just decided to continue to run the country because they didn't want their guy to fall down, and they didn't want to lose control. And so I don't know as it was necessarily, again, a single person. I think it's more about groupthink.
Well, I think they should investigate it anyway, just to be on the safe side, just to be absolutely sure. Is it a group or is it individuals? And this is, if they really put their mind to it and they really put the effort into it, they could turn the rock over and find a slime crawling around underneath, if in fact there is slime crawling around. I do believe there is, but then again, that's just me.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on for firearms stuff today, Fred, before we got about 2 minutes here?
Well, that's about it. Don't give up the fight. That's all. You can say today, I guess.
Don't ever give up the ship. That's exactly it. All right, Fred. Well, it's good to talk with you, my friend. I appreciate you coming on board and sharing with us. Thanks for listening to Firearms Friday.
And take care, Mike. Have a good day.
319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. As you can tell, we kind of wandered off the Firearms Friday point here for a minute to talk about some of that stuff. But, again, and somebody just in the chat room just asked, well, who started the groupthink, Mike? Well, I mean, I think it was a whole, it's an ideology, right? This goes back to an ideology that started, in the 50s and the 60s, where people believed that, again, that only through the direct benevolent intervention of government can we come together? Can we create a peaceful society? I've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately. And one thing that I'm always I have to chuckle at is Roddenberry's vision of this utopian society where everybody just gets along now and that's just not human nature. Okay. A cashless society and all this kind of stuff where everything's just taken care of by the government and they're going to be benevolent and they're going to, again, that's people who have completely bought into the narrative that only through the direct benevolent intervention of government you can do it. So they all join. That's the thing. They all then join into that same government and then utilize it as a bludgeon against people who don't believe the things that they believe. They don't believe in the same way. They want individual liberty. They want to be left alone. They don't want government to intervene. That's the problem. All right, we got to go. Hour 2 is dead ahead. Geez, that was a fast hour. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Anthony says, I'm with you, Michael. It's like cattle stampeding over the edge of a cliff. You'd think the ones in the rear would see what's happening and stop, but they'll jump to their deaths one after another when the herd mentality kicks in. And I think that's really what it is. I mean, all these people who are, on the internet about Charlie's death, I mean, some of it's clout chasing, some of it's recognition, low self-esteem and just wanting to be part of the crowd. Some of it is they are completely opposed to anyone who doesn't believe in their viewpoint, which again is that somehow government can make society better in the long run, that it has to have that direct benevolence. I mean, government is a necessity in my mind in a society. You have to have some form of government, but I think it needs to be as light as light a touch as possible on the populace to maintain freedoms and liberty. And what we have today and what the founding fathers were concerned about, and I've often said this, if the founding fathers were alive today, they'd be in some tavern talking treason, right? Because this is what they warned about. A government that was so invasive, that was so wrapped up in every aspect of your life that they could, I was reading about micro schools the other day. There's a good article on micro schooling that's talking about the challenges of micro schooling and people just wanting to teach their own kids. And now even some of these organizations are calling for the government to create guidelines so that they know that they're in the framework of legality or anything. And I'm just thinking, why, if you want to teach your own kids, you should be able to teach your own kids. Whether you want to get together with some neighbors or friends or family or church members or whatever and do it. Why is it everybody's looking to the government to sign off on things? Why? You think somehow the government has more collective knowledge and more collectively good decision-making or judgment than you do as government is made up of people. You should decide for yourself on a lot of those things. And why would you go and beg their permission to do, we just continually abdicated, parts of our lives to government. And again, my question is, why would you do that? Well, because we've been indoctrinated to do so through years of public schooling and everything else that, where we're basically told government is the solution to every problem. Not that the government is the root cause of many of the problems that we have, but that it is the solution to every problem. And then we have whole cadres of people who believe that that's the only way that society can move forward. We couldn't be trusted to do this ourselves. Couldn't possibly be trusted to do this ourselves. Wow, man, today, okay. Guys, steer me off topic here. We need to go talk about something else. JD Too Chilly also had a fantastic, by the way, I wanted to try and get JD on it. Maybe we'll get him on next week. But JD Too Chilly over at Reason Magazine also has a great defense of Charlie Kirk and his stance on the Second Amendment. Now, I was going to get into that, but I got sidetracked by all this other stuff. This is what happens when I have nothing but guests all week and I don't get a chance to talk about the things that I got all these guests and I'm like, but I got to get to these guests. And I just never get a chance to have my say on some of this stuff. So anyway, we're kind of running amok here. It's Firearms Friday, but it's Freeform Friday. Look at the gun you need. See, here's the problem is that you sent it to me on my Facebook, let me switch. I'm just hoping this doesn't crash anything because I got to switch profiles in my Facebook page to go look at it. Okay. It's going to launch a whole new window because of course it has to launch a whole new window. I want to see this gun that Anthony's talking about. Here we go. Happy Friday. Here is oh my Lord, it's so slow. There it is. Whew. Okay. Nice. M&P FPC. This is like a little 10 millimeter carbine. Is that what it is? It's a 10 millimeter. Oh, it's a foldable carbine. Okay. I gotta, let me open that image over here. It looks like a foldable carbine. I like, wait a second. Where is it? Right here. How about this right here? Is that it? I think that's it. Oh, yeah, look at that. Up over here. And put the camera up ahead of it. Yeah. Anthony's got a little foldable carbine. 10 millimeter. Man, that's pretty snazzy, man. That's pretty snazzy. Can't ask for anything better than that, can we? Okay. Thank you for the picture, Anthony. I appreciate that. All right. Let's go back over here. Melissa gives good news every day. Maybe she can give us some too, said Frank. Well, I mean, I'm trying to give you good news. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. I'm trying to give you good news. Boy, this is the fastest 2 hours today you're ever going to see. All right, let's continue on. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do it.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh yeah, baby! Firearms Friday. Your chance to your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Hi, how are ya? Are you ready to dive into it and keep things rocking and rolling? That's what we're all about here on this beautiful Friday. We are taking your phone calls, your emails, your chats, whatever it is that you want to talk about today in regards to the Second Amendment. And we would love for you to come in and participate with it. The phone lines are open on this beautiful Friday at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you would, we'd love for you to come in and participate with us and chat about everything that's going on out there. We'd love for you to be a part of it today on this beautiful Firearms Friday. Feel free to call in, and if you disagree, you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Feel free to come on in and disagree. Feel free to disagree. That's what it's all about here. So come on in and be part of it. I was wanting to get, and I didn't get to the JD Tuccilli. JD Tuccilli from Reason Magazine has got a great article talking about Charlie Kirk's position on the Second Amendment. And he talks about how all liberty involves trade-offs, talking specifically about, Charlie's conversation around driving and medical malpractice and everything else. Anyway, I'm hoping to have JD on next week to talk about that. So I didn't get to that article, but there are links up. You can go to Reason Magazine, and you can, or if you subscribe to the Rattler, which is his weekly newsletter, you can get that article as well. So go ahead and feel free to jump in on that and do it to it. So I wanted to hit on some of the high stories, the highlights of the stories that are out there around the country. And again, take your phone calls to discuss them as well around firearms and the Second Amendment. This is a story that I've been following for quite a while, but has just seems to have finally received some resolution. The Second Amendment Foundation, if you're familiar with SAF, they have been out there. Alan Gottlieb, he's been a guest on the show several times over the years, and I should reach back out to him and have him back on again. That's another good one to put in my cap here and see if we can get him back on board. Alan Gottlieb, of course, the founder of that. For the last 3 years, the Second Amendment Foundation in Washington State, they're founded out of Bellevue, has been under investigation by the Washington Attorney General's office. For 3 years, they have been searching for evidence of some kind of wrongdoing. The investigation was started by now Governor Bob Ferguson, who has been a gun control zealot for his entire political career. And when he was serving as Washington's Attorney General, he, of course, supported any gun control law that crossed his desk, including so-called assault weapons ban and large capacity magazine and everything else. But he also targeted the Second Amendment Foundation for allegedly, quote, violating consumer protection and charitable solicitation laws, unquote. And so for 3 years, they've been digging into SAF and investigating. This is so much like what Letitia James, although I would say that SAF does not have nearly the problems that the NRA has. NRA had a lot of actual problems inside, internal problems that Letitia James in New York was then able to exploit. But the Second Amendment Foundation doesn't have any of those real issues. So Alan Gottlieb said that they were never provided information from the Attorney General's office regarding what it was looking for. He said it was very intimidating, and I really don't know for sure what they were really looking for because nothing's there. They were arguing that we weren't complying with consumer protection laws in the state of Washington and charitable solicitation laws in the state of Washington. But now they have basically ended the investigation. In an agreement between the SAF and the Attorney General, it includes SAF's withdrawal of its pending Public Records Act request. So they apparently, I love this. They apparently said, "Oh, okay, so we would like to have, we're going to issue a FOIA, and we want to see every piece of communication that you guys have in regards to your investigation of us." That was I would like to see every email, every memo, every, minutes of every meeting where this was, I want to see it all. So this agreement withdraws that FOIA request, that Public Records Act request. And this is what Gottlieb went on to say in his press release. This investigation, launched by Bob Ferguson in an effort to discredit our work on behalf of gun owners in the Second Amendment, was a politically motivated legal fishing expedition. Ferguson's witch hunt wasted 3 years of our time and cost us thousands of man hours and more than $200,000. We're convinced this happened because he's a devoted anti-gun rights politician, and we are a national organization whose mission is to protect and defend the Second Amendment. Now, the new Attorney General weighed in on this, claiming that the settlement was no big deal, right? The communications director for the Attorney General's office said, the foundation is agreeing to dismiss their own lawsuit against the AG's office. Dismissing their own lawsuit is hardly a vindication of their allegations. What? SAF wanted to walk away from their litigation against the state, and we agreed not to seek fees if they dismiss their case. That's mainly what this agreement does. We also agreed to withdraw some years-old requests for documents and depositions and close our previous investigation, but in no way does that mean that SAF complied with the law. Nothing in the settlement prevents the state from investigating SAF further or pursuing the allegations of wrongdoing that have been widely reported, and nothing in the settlement in any way suggests that SAF has complied with the law. This settlement simply lets us avoid having to deal with further litigation over SAF's political animus claims that the 2 counts have already rejected. But the what? Wait a second. We'll just hold on a second. If you believe that there is merit to this, if you believe that they have in some way violated the law, but by the way, they said again, let me read this quote. In no way does it mean that SAF complied with the law. But of course, that also doesn't mean that they haven't broken any law. If it means they complied with if you think that they have broken the law, then don't you have a responsibility to pursue them? Oh, and this is just SAF wanting to pull back on their lawsuit, and you're just letting them out of the benevolence of your heart. You're letting them do this. Has nothing to do with the public records request for all the documentation, disposition, and all the discovery that they would find if they, pulled that has nothing to do with any of that. the posturing on this is just insane. We've also agreed to withdraw some years-old requests for documents and to close our previous investigation. But that doesn't mean that they're not guilty. That's essentially what they're saying. Doesn't mean that they're not guilty. It just means that after 3 years and umpteen thousands, and I guarantee you, it was more than what SAF spent. SAF spent $200,000 plus thousands of man hours, so $2,000 cash plus thousand. I guarantee you, the state spent much more than that because somebody had it as their full-time job for 3 years. If you still thought that they had not complied with the law, why would you agree to back out? Why would you agree to kill the case? I mean, and we live in such a topsy-turvy world these days, folks. Such a topsy-turvy world. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, the weaponization of government. The weaponization of government at every level. In this case, it's the Attorney General's office going after SAF. I was talking earlier about the FCC being utilized as a bludgeon. We've seen it before with the IRS going after the patriot groups and remember during the grassroots Tea Party groups and stuff that were we've seen it time and time and time again where they've weaponized government to go after political opponents and people they don't agree with. Nothing scares me in this world more than something like that. Because they've got the full force and fury of a governmental agency with the deepest pockets in the world going against average American citizens. Or in this case, average groups of people who are just out there trying to exercise their rights to free speech and to demand them, and then to look you in the eye and tell you, well, this doesn't mean that they actually didn't do something. What? So, I'm curious. I think I'm going to try and reach out to Alan Gottlieb. He says the settlement will allow SAF to go back to devoting full time and attention to more than 50 lawsuits that it's involved in around the country, and to take on various gun control laws. Continuing its litigation against the AG's office would take a number of years and another couple of $100,000, which he said would be a waste of time that takes away from SAF's mission of defending the Second Amendment. And I would agree. But I mean, good for them. I would really like to see I'm interested to see what their records requests, their public records requests, their FOIAs. I would really like to see the scope of what they were asking for, because I would love to see some other private individual or citizen or some other group ask for the same stuff. I really would. I'd like them to ask for the same stuff for a public, because to me, that's the key here. The key is that they agreed to withdraw their public records request for records from the Attorney General's office. I would love that. To me, that's a red flag, right? Somebody should still be asking for those things. It's Hey guys, how you doing? Are you ready? Can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me now. I got everything back up. I got the stream back up. I got the podcast recording back up. I don't know what I was doing, but something went down, and we're ready to go. Can you hear me? That's all I'm saying. I see audio going. I see everything else, but you guys are being quiet now. I hear you, says Chris. Okay. I don't even know where you guys lost me at some point. But somewhere in there, something crashed and happened. Okay. Well, we're in the commercial break right now. We're 2 minutes out. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how far back we lost the audio, and I apologize. But apparently, let's see, where's this at? That is at 1 minute 25. Okay, so we didn't lose too much. We lost just a couple minutes, right? Right? Okay. So I got one. I mean, we didn't lose the radio, which is you guys are important. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that I'm on all these radio stations and translators across the state, at least we didn't lose the audio to the radio. That's the important part at that point. Okay. It's not Gremlins in the studio. I'm having a problem with which is one of my nicest pieces of equipment, but occasionally it just decides to stop. I don't know what it is, but maybe this is my sign to finally swap that new computer in here, because I've actually been limping the old computer along because I've been too lazy to take it. Well, not lazy. I know there's going to be a lot of challenges and problems with it, but maybe it's time to finally swap out this other computer. We'll have to see. Okay. What else have we got here in the chat room? I'm sorry, Harold. You screaming louder about the sound not being there doesn't help when I'm not looking at that screen, because I was looking at another screen. Anthony has gone over to the radio. Let's see. Terry said, "I'm so glad that we left Washington before it completely lost its mind." Yeah, exactly. And don't forget how Western Washington now has top management of Alaska's commercial and other fisheries. Gives you a warm feeling inside. No, not really. Does not give me a warm feeling inside at all. Does not give me warm fuzzy wuzzies. Definitely not. All right, here we go. Jumping back in.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay. Worn feeling. Oh, I'm sorry. It was, you mean worn feeling, right? I mean, I'm just trying. There you go. All right. Let's continue on here with the final segment of you guys are confusing me. We had a little audio problem there for the listeners on the stream, but that's why you can always listen on radio. That's why radio is more dependable than the internet. See, that's what I'm saying. Radio is more dependable than the internet. All right. One final segment before we run out of daylight here and have to pick it up with Willie Waffle. For our weekend movie review. There's a survey out that came out here a couple of weeks ago. We didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but it's a new poll, anti-gunners, they always claim that, well, no one wants to take your guns. No one wants to take your gun, except, of course, for all the politicians who do and say that they want to. I mean, except for that, I mean, you're right. I mean, there's, they always say one thing, but they do, their action says something, as their actions say something different. I mean, at least I can respect somebody like Gabby Giffords, who always just says no more guns. And I can understand it from her perspective, having being shot in the face by a madman. I can understand that maybe that's her position. I mean, it doesn't, again, the 99.96% of all law-abiding, other people out here who are all law-abiding, you shouldn't penalize us, but I understand that she has that position. But what they won't admit is that there's a new poll out that illustrates some real problems for them. That Americans, including a lot of self-described Democrats, actually like having guns in their communities. There's an article over on Liberty Nation that talks about this, that there is basically the poll, which was conducted by the Napolitan News Service, says 53% of voters, which includes Democrats and Republicans, 53% of voters prefer to live in a community where people are allowed to own guns, while 38% said that they would prefer to live where guns are outlawed. This includes 76% of those who identify as Republicans and 63% of Democrats. By almost a 2-to-1 margin, men say that they want to live in an area where their friends and neighbors are allowed to own guns. Women have mixed feelings. 44% say they prefer to have firearms outlawed. 43% want to live in a location where a gun is allowed. So there it's a pretty even split, 44 to 43. When asked about gun violence and so-called mass shootings, 56% of those polled would rather have the laws already on the books enforced over passing new legislation. Concerning matters of race, it's clear that blacks and Hispanics are more concerned about mass shootings. Only 3% of whites said it was very likely that a close family member might be killed in a random shooting. But and I don't know if it's mass shootings, as it should be just shootings. But 11% of blacks and 9% of Hispanics felt more personally threatened. So it is, again, a complete and total change from what the narrative that you would like to see from many of the folks out there on the left, that, most people support new gun. It's not necessarily the case. It's not necessarily the case. Now, the fact that more women, that it's a pretty even split, but still 44% to 43%, so they're still the winning side, that more women want guns outlawed is concerning and a bit confusing to me personally. And we've talked about this at length in the past. The women are the one group, I think, out there, the one demographic that they benefit from guns the most. Right? I mean, if the average woman is 120 pounds, generally speaking, they're never going to be able to physically match up to a man in an altercation. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule. I mean, nobody wants to go, take on Gina Carano in a dark alley, right? Okay, I understand. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, but the average woman is never going to be a physical match for a man, right? And so why wouldn't they want to leverage the tool? Because we are tool using monkeys, right? We have opposable thumbs. We are tool using monkeys. Why wouldn't a woman want to have that tool available to her to equalize the situation? Especially When you've got the man and bear in the woods scenario, right? You've all heard about this, right? This man in the bear. This has been a hot minute since this thing came out. I think we may have actually even talked about it, but I saw some other kind of commentary on this the other day where, it's a hypothetical situation. And if you're a woman, would you rather be stuck in the woods with a man or a bear? And of course, all the women say a bear because we're afraid of what men could do. Now, again, besides the fact that 99% of all men would probably do nothing, but a bear is always going to eat you. But it's a hypothetical, right? But again, if you were a woman who was armed, would you rather have a bear or a man? Would you just add a gun to that equation? You're stuck in the woods alone. Would you rather be with a man or a bear? Oh, and by the way, you're armed. Right? So why women would prefer to have firearms outlawed? Again, here's the thing. Again, this assumption that somehow by creating one more law, do these women really think that criminals, quote, criminals, right? Criminals are really going to abide by that one more law? Right? So while to me this survey is good news in and of the fact that, again, that 53% prefer to live in a community where where people are allowed to own guns, I think that's great. But again, I question this whole thing about the women who say they prefer to have firearms outlawed. But again, do they think that that's going to fix it? I am heartened by the fact that over the last, 4 or 5 years, we've seen a tremendous uptick in ownership among women and minorities. And different, groups, Pink Pistols and all this. I'm happy to see that. I'm absolutely happy to see that. But I'm still scratching my head over the fact that, again, 44% said that they would just want to have guns outlawed. Do you think that's going to stop them? It's still illegal to rape. It's still illegal to assault. It's still illegal to steal and do all these other things. Do you think that one more law is going to stop them? Ladies, if you had to go into the woods alone, would you rather do it with a man and a bear and a gun? You know what? Add that to, if anybody ever asks you that, just say, am I armed? Because I'm always armed. I should be armed. If I'm going into the woods with a bear, I'm armed. Because in that case, then yes, I think it should be the man. Well, or maybe it could be the bear, because then you could shoot the bear and eat the bear and live and use the skins. So I guess it depends on your level of bushcraft. If you're armed, then definitely the bear, because there's some good eating right there. That's what it takes. Some good eating on that bear. So maybe that was, man. Well, no, I've smelled a bear, but would you rather die or would you? There's a whole nother, you created a whole nother conundrum. All right, we're out of time. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. Here we go. All right. Oh, man. That's just, yeah. Oh, Joel says he would take on Gina in a dark alley. You dirty old man. Do you know what I mean? Let's see here. Did anyone take a survey? Sorry, let me pull this down here. Did anyone take a survey of the repeat offenders to see which community they want to live in after they exit through the jurisprudence of a revolving door yet? I lay odds it's in the gun-free one. Yeah, I don't know. They didn't break that down. But again, that just reminds me of the whole John Stossel interview that he did in prison. Remember that when John Stossel did the interview in prison with all the felons, and they were talking about guns, and he said, How soon, how easy is it for you to get a gun? How long would it take you to get a gun when you got out of prison? And he had a dozen or so felons around him, and they were all like, 90 minutes, I think was the longest time. It was like 30 to 90 minutes they'd have a gun in their hand. I'm just like, if you can get heroin in prison, do you really think that these guys are going to have a hard time getting a gun? Right? I mean, right? Jesse just said gaining AM light. What, Jesse? We're losing light until the 21st of December. Come on, don't tease me with that. Don't tease me with that. Harold says he's just waiting on Willie. All right, I know. He's going to be here any minute. It's going to be fine. And then Brian just dropped me a link on Substack for a Substack thing. What was this? I got to look on my phone because it's stochastic carry. Stochastic carry. Oh, this is from Elgato. Dunning-Kruger effect. I can't talk and read this at the same time. But I'm going to go back and read this. Thank you, Brian, for giving me the stuff. Did I see the jewelry store that was robbed yesterday? I've seen videos like that time and time and time again, my friend. And in San Francisco, they should be used to it. I mean, in San Francisco, that happens all over the place. I mean, these mass flash mobs where they do the thing, that's happening all over the place. Again, another reason why I would never want to live in the People's Republic of California. I've been waiting. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's what's been happening. They're basically flash mobs. Did you see the one where they drove into the, and I think this was another one. They backed a vehicle into the front of a jewelry store, little mom and pop jewelry store. And they backed a stolen vehicle in through the front of the store. So they stole the vehicle, then they bashed in the front of the store with it. And they had, 10, 15 people with guns and knives and everything else. And they came in and they cleaned out the cases there too. I mean, this is smash and grab. This is organized. This is, did that old man, that was another guy. He fended off the one that had the stroke and died. He fended off the attackers at another store and was able to fend them off, but then later on had a stroke and died. So yeah, dude, this is, again, you better go out and find some joy in life because this world is doomed in some ways, right? And it's why I would never live in those cesspools of some of those cities. I mean, it's kind of crazy enough out here. I mean, a guy just got shot in Anchor Point yesterday because he was trying to run from the cops. He had a $50,000 felony warrant. He tried to hide out in the woods down here at Steriski, and he got shot. I mean, luckily he didn't do anything to anybody else. Luckily he's the one that died, not innocent bystander, but you know what I mean? So it's great. And then Harold's going to tell us all about his 2 weeks. Oh, his kids went parasailing 2 weeks in Hawaii. These young people and their new trucks. Harold, you're such a conundrum sometimes. Such a conundrum. All right. Well, we are coming up on it here. My phone just buzzed, which means that Willie is connecting and we are ready to go. Joy in life, says Frank. 36 more days till trapping. Good for you, my friend. Find what brings you joy and do it. Find that joy and do it. That's what, I do the best thing that I can do here on the program every day. And then on the weekends or in the week evenings, I spent my time with my family, and then I enjoy and, watch a movie or read a book, play some video games, have a chat, go out to eat. I find joy where I can. We all need to do that. Don't we? Just do better at it. All right, here we go. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Okay. We got to start the weekend. And no weekend is ever started without a little bit of waffle in your life. A little bit of waffle or a whole lot of waffle. Willie Waffle joins us, movie critic extraordinaire. Hello, my friend. How was your...
I'm feeling good, man. I want the waffle to be the symbol of happiness and fun and excitement and possibility, and all those things happen on the weekend.
I just want waffle to be the symbol of breakfast. I don't know why you're reaching so far. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, let's we'll dive into the entertainment news first, and of course, the big news is Jimmy Kimmel's back. He had his tearful apology, not apology. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of watched some of it, and I was like, "Come on, dude." I don't know. Give me your thoughts. What's happening here?
Well, I'm just gonna say right up front, I am shocked that he's even back. I mean, I am really, honestly, in shock because they still have a lot of the same problems that they had a week ago. Okay, right. So and I'm still willing to bet that when his contract's up next year, he's not coming back. But that's a side point. But here's the problem Jimmy Kimmel still faces. Two of the biggest affiliate owners in all of the nation still are not carrying his program.
Right.
Okay, so Nexstar and Sinclair, and I live in an area where Nexstar is my ABC affiliate. They're showing repeats of Modern Family instead of Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
And that puts me in about the same boat as 23% of the company. The country, pardon me. They 23% of the country.
I saw the number yesterday. They have 37% of all ABC coverage in the country. 37% by Nexstar. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then Sinclair's got a big chunk, not nearly that much, but they've got a big chunk. So you're talking about 40% of the country is not watching Jimmy Kimmel anymore because he's being preempted.
Yes, and that's why it's going to get them in the long term. Now, the Comeback Show, as you can imagine, was a massive ratings hit. I mean, even with all those other affiliates not playing ball, he scored 6.3 million viewers. That is 3 times his normal audience. Okay, so that was pretty impressive. But the numbers are going to drop very quickly. I mean, this is a world where everybody's really hot to protest and stand up for Kimmel when he comes back. In 3 weeks, they're going to be back onto something else. They're going to be following some other new controversy. They're going to have some other new fire that they're fanning and flaming. I mean, so when those numbers get down to 1 point something. They're going to have some troubles. So I think it's and let's face it. Here's the thing that really interests me. I don't know if you saw this. There's a group of Disney shareholders that are exploring a lawsuit against Disney over all of this.
Oh, geez. I didn't see that.
And what I think this is just me speculating. What I think they're really, 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 really trying to do is to get to Discovery and to get their hands on all the emails and all the conversations and all the communications that went on over the past week in order to expose whatever they think Disney is or became or whatever you will.
Right.
So that to me is the thing to watch.
Oh, wow.
Because Kimmel will eventually go away. I mean, there was a big protest where people were unsubscribing from Disney Plus. Some of them will come back, but maybe many of them won't. But the real hit, I think, is going to be if they get their hands on emails from Bob Iger saying this or that or the other thing that Bob Iger would rather not have be public.
Yeah. No, you're right. That could be the big deal. And of course, once that cat's out of the bag, oof, man, that could be big trouble for them.
Yeah, I think so. That's the interesting thing to me. And then we'll see now. The FCC it sounds like it still wants to put on the fight. They still want to rake Disney and Nexstar over the coals for this. Now Nexstar is going to argue, hey, we took them off the air.
Right.
Disney, when they're trying to get their deal done where they're selling part of ESPN to the NFL, oh man, talk about a battle of the Titans: Disney, the NFL, and the FCC.
Yeah, no,
that's one I can't even predict who wins that one.
It's gonna be a tough one. But like you said, I mean, Kimmel's contract's up next year, right? 2026.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
They were supposed to go into negotiations this fall to figure out what the future was going to be. And I want to say May is the end of his contract. I want to say sometime in May.
So this is probably his last hoorah. He'll have to go back to being a comedian, or whatever.
Well, and he never really was a comedian. I mean, he was a radio guy. He was a talk show host. He had a show on Comedy Central, The Man Show, which, okay, can I just throw this out there? Because this is the kind of snarky human being I am. When Jimmy Kimmel was making his non-apology speech the other night, and he started talking about how he's a follower of Christ, and I'm like, were you a follower of Christ when you were doing the Man Show and you had women on bikinis jumping up and down on trampolines?
Right.
I'm just saying.
It's a question. It's a question.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's a question.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, well, we'll see what happens with that. We'll be watching with bated breath on that. What else we got here? Oh, elections. It's election season, but not the one it's the Screen Guild and the Directors Guild and all the actors and all those people. They had their elections.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool. It's famous people that the Directors Guild of America, which is basically the union for all the directors that negotiates their contract, which is coming up with the Association of Motion Picture and Television Producers, they elected director Christopher Nolan as their president, and he will be their president over the next 2 years, and unless there's a complete disaster, he'll get another 2-year term after that. But hey, the guy behind The Dark Knight, the guy behind Oppenheimer, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I think this is the most important part, the guy who was fighting all the movies going to streaming during COVID.
Yeah,
and
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yep. I think that's going to tell you a little bit about what he's going to fight for and what he's going to try to push for the directors. Now, on a side note, I didn't even know this. They have 2 vice presidents. Well, one of them is Ron Howard now. Opie Cunningham became a vice president of the Directors Guild.
Well, we'll have to see what. We'll have to see what happens there. SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, they got their own deal. It used to be the nanny. The nanny was the president, Fran Drescher.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is kind of weird, but now they've got Samwise Gamgee. Samwise Gamgee is now.
That's right. Sean Astin has become the president of the Screen Actors Guild, and his not his vice president. His let me look it up here. Oh, it's his secretary and treasurer is Michelle Hurd from Law and Order, SVU, and for geeks like me, Star Trek Picard.
Oh, and the Walking Dead too, right? Isn't she part of
The Walking Dead? Yes, she was in The Walking Dead too. But here's the interesting part. I mean, not only that it's Sean Astin and he's become the president of the Screen Actors Guild, his mother, Patty Duke, was the president of the Screen Actors Guild years ago. So this is a HWW situation here. This really is a Bush and Bush Jr. situation. There's a little nepotism going on in the electorate.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Again, I dodged the SAG-AFTRA bullet many years ago. I was going to join for the voice. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't when it was all said and done because. Oof, it's a mess, but okay.
Well, and barely anybody voted. I found out their turnout was something like 20%.
Oh man,
like dude, you're all the same people who are out there doing rock the vote and get out to vote, and you didn't even vote in your own union election. Come on,
what's wrong with you? All right, well, let's move over to the superhero universe. Tom Holland, he takes some hard knocks.
He does, and we talked about this a few weeks ago when Henry Cavill got injured while he was training for the Highlander movie. Well, Spider-Man, Tom Holland, he got a concussion on the set of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and they had to shut down production for a week. Now they said that it was a light concussion, that they shut it down for a week as more of a precaution to give him a proper amount of time to heal, because let's face it was a concussion. So like, Let's give this guy a little bit of time to recover and to recoup. Now they're scheduled to go back into production on Monday, and they still think the film is going to be released on July 31st. Don't worry, they don't think it's going to delay the release of the movie. But it just shows you. I mean, when you make these big stunt movies and you make these big superhero movies, there are risks. I mean, we've seen Tom Cruise broke his ankle. Henry Cavill got some sort of weird injury that nobody's talking about. I still think he got stabbed. And now you got Tom Holland getting a concussion.
Well, and Harrison Ford, right, in the last Indiana Jones, he broke his ankle or his arm or something.
Something horrible like that. Yeah. So it happens.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
Well, tell them to be more careful. That's all I could say. All right, we got about 4.5 minutes here, so we're going to jump from the news over to what's in the theaters and what's on the stream. You got 3 different choices here. I'll let you drive the bus as far as good, best to worst, worst to best, whatever you want to do.
All right, I got to get this one off my chest.
Okay,
let's start. One Battle After Another. The big Paul Thomas Anderson movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, a movie that I have been looking forward to for several months now because I'm a fan of both of these guys. And it's almost 3 hours long. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it stinks. I'm just going to tell you right now. I don't understand all this love for the movie. I don't understand all these people who think it's brilliant. I found it to be just a mess. So it's Leonardo DiCaprio playing. Now, they bill him as a revolutionary.
Right.
Okay, that's the kind way to say he's a domestic terrorist.
Okay.
And his character is part of this basically this group that's almost like the group that was kidnapping people in the 70s, like Patty Hearst, and they're blowing up banks and they're blowing up politicians' offices, and they're on the run, and they're being chased by Sean Penn, who is somewhat a corrupt, overzealous fascist army general or army colonel. I never really caught his rank there. And, eventually things start to fall apart. DiCaprio goes on the run, and he has to protect his daughter. But eventually the past is going to catch up with them.
Okay.
And somewhere in there, I think there's a story about a father who's trying to protect a daughter who's in danger.
Right.
And a daughter who doesn't know the truth about her parents and doesn't know what's going on around her and their past and these horrible things that she's going to learn. And that to me is interesting. But all the other stuff, it's just a lot of baloney leading up to it. The tone is all over the place. I mean, you think it's a serious drama about, fighting the fascist or chasing after the criminals, whatever way you want to look at the movie, or it's a gonzo comedy because he's kind of out of his gourd at this point. He's stoned all the time. He doesn't even remember his name sometimes or important information sometimes. But it's not funny enough. It's not always dramatic enough. I'm at like half a waffle.
Oh,
I really am at half a waffle.
Dang, that's painful. Yeah, I mean, they said members of the far left revolutionary group known as the French 75. Oh, okay. All right. That's all we needed to know. Okay, so half a waffle for One Battle After Another, which leads us to
The Strangers.
The Strangers,
Chapter 2.
Okay.
And God, like we needed first of all, you had like the 3 originals that like came out 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now you got then they decided to reboot it, and you had the first one a few years ago. Now this is chapter 2. They're already guaranteeing you a chapter 3. I'm throwing the book in the garbage. I don't need to get to chapter 3. This is Madeline Petch. She plays the victim from the first movie. Okay, and she somehow survived, and the strangers don't like that, so they're chasing after her to finish the job,
to kill her. Yeah,
and,
got it.
yeah. There's some scares, but there's nothing deep. There's nothing special. It's a very serviceable horror movie at best, and I think the only reason you even would be interested in it is Madeline Petch, who has somewhat become a pretty decent scream queen. I mean, she's like the only thing that's worth watching in this movie with her real fear and her real emotions. But I'm at one waffle for The Strangers chapter 2 as well.
Ow. All right, less than 60 seconds then. Give us the last one, the lowdown.
The Lowdown. This is a new series on FX and Hulu. Ethan Hawke is kind of this unhinged, independent investigative reporter who is getting down to find out all the dirty little secrets of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's going to involve the richest people in town, the suicide of one of the members of the family that might not be a suicide, and all the dirty dealings of the companies that are buying up the land for some reason around Tulsa. I'm at 2.5 waffles. Again, I think it's supposed to be more of a gonzo comedy. It's not gonzo enough, but I like Ethan Hawke. I think he's bringing a lot of idiocy and intelligence in the right amounts to this character, who's really a gadfly, kind of a guy off the wall, but the kind of guy you kind of need in society to really kind of get into the nooks and crannies where the legitimate media won't go.
All right.
I'm at 2.5 waffles.
Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Folks, we're out of time. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Well, kind of a suck weekend for movies, man. I mean, I guess this Lowdown sounds like it might be a little fun to watch, but everything else just sounds a meh. I mean, totally meh.
Yeah, and we're going to start seeing, I mean, technically you could argue that One Battle After Another is the start of the Oscar season in some respect, because Paul Thomas Anderson is a very well-respected director, DiCaprio is a well-respected actor, and you're going to start seeing other movies that are really in the Oscar contention coming out over the next several weeks. So we're going to get in there. I think next week is maybe one of the surprise ones. We're going to end up talking about The Smashing Machine with The Rock. And if you had ever told me that The Rock had a chance to get an Oscar nomination, I would have laughed in your face. But the buzz is strong with this one, my friends.
Oh, man.
And we'll have to see where it is next week, because I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Hey, everybody was buzzing about the DiCaprio movie. Forget about that.
Yeah.
That's over.
I know. I saw some of the things, and they're like, it's great, it's this and that. But I trust you more than most of the other random folks on the internet, so I think that's okay. We'll see. And anything else coming up next week that's big outside of The Smashing Machine?
Yeah, The Smashing Machine's the biggest one. There's something else that I'm not remembering right now because I'm so excited about The Smashing Machine. So there's other things happening. I'm curious to see if what the Apple TV is going to do. They were supposed to bring out this big hot series that they have with Jessica Chastain that was called The Savant, that they pulled from release this week.
Right.
Like, this was supposed to be their big series that was supposed to premiere today.
Yeah.
And because it's about a woman who's investigating right-wing conspiracy groups, they decided to pull it because of all the Charlie Kirk stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get in the middle of that. I can dig it. But that's going to have to come back at some time, I would think.
Yeah.
And there's a really cool Hulu show coming out next week that we're going to talk about. The title is escaping me right now, but Glenn Powell plays a gentleman who's a little bit older than a college student who decides to fake his identity so he can go back to college and play football. And that looks like it might be really funny.
All right. Well, good. We'll have to check it out next week. All right. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thanks, my friend. I appreciate you being part of it today.
Hey, thank you. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, folks. We are out of time. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.